One, two, one, two. This is Lewis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fights on Our Kings Competitions. Delighted to join Michael Ofo here in London ahead of a big week for yourself. Obviously promoting the show on Sunday in Gibraltar. Other than that, how are things, mate? It's fight week, so I'm sure it's a very stressful one.
Yeah, I feel like I've been in 10 rounds myself. It's been a challenging time. It's exciting. Looking forward to it. It's going to be an amazing event. Heading over to Gibraltar tomorrow, so exciting times.
Obviously, main event being Dillian Whyte and Ebeneezer Tetteh. Dillian Whyte back in Gibraltar, which I'm sure it's a good place for him because very good memories from the Povetkin rematch.
Yeah, I was in the corner for that fight, and I remember the night before me and Dill speaking, and he was quite. When I say emotional, hyped up, and he's like, I'm going to destroy this guy. And it was a look that he gave me, and we was on the same page of thinking. So it was like I knew the mentality that he was going in there with, and he just executed to perfection. So yeah, it was a great atmosphere. Those in Gibraltar, they have a passion for boxing. They have a passion for entertainment. And they're fans that are similar to what you would experience in a York Hall or what you would experience in a O2, crazy fan base. So we're excited to go back there and this time it's out of COVID. So, it's going to be a great time.
Definitely, and I guess for Dillian it's very much on the comeback trail. Obviously we know he's been a stable at world level for such a long time, for so many years, being in great fights. But obviously now in probably a different stage where he's sort of coming back. Obviously Ebeneezer Tetteh, the opponent, who obviously most known for obviously the Dubois fight a couple of years ago. But how did it come around to making this fight and realising that this is probably best for Dillian on his comeback?
Yeah, it was about finding an opponent that was going to bring excitement. It was about finding somebody that wasn't just going to come and lie down, somebody that was dangerous, that has boxing ability and power. And when we put our feelers out, Ebeneezer Tetteh wanted the fight, and I think what helped push it over the line is that he said that he wanted to knock out Dillian Whyte. So when somebody comes with that kind of energy, as a boxing fan and as a new promoter, you want to provide excitement. So he's only lost to Daniel Dubois, who's a world champion. So yeah, we're going to see what he's made of. It's for both parties. This is an opportunity that can open the door for them to go on to bigger and better things on huge stages. So we look forward to it.
I guess for Dillian now, how important is it now that he sort of gets this one out before the end of the year and is in big fights in 2025? We see, as speak to him there, you see how much the heavyweight division is moving. Is it very much the case that Dillian needs to be a part of that as well?
Yeah, I think the division waits for no man, and activity is very important. And Dillian wants to be active, and that's why he's on the show, because he wants to be active. He's one of the most talented heavyweights that we have, and we know that he's up for fighting anybody. So hopefully next year, there's so many big names out there, he should be involved in some of those massive fights.
Is there any names, I guess, that could take a pick for yourself? Speak to Dillian there, like a guy like Lawrence Okoli. Dillian had some choice words about him, but he's sort of also always for years now barked on the white tree. So is there any particular names that would interest yourself for Dillian?
You know what? I just think it's such an exciting time. Any of the top guys, AJ, Lawrence Okoli, Joseph Parker, Zhang. I really like that fight. Zhang will be a massive fight. You can pick them all. I think there's just that everybody brings a different dimension, but they're all big fights that can lead you into another big fight. Big Baby Miller, all of these guys. So Gerald Anderson or Wilder. We've all wanted that Wilder fight for years. Why not Dillian Whyte and Wilder? Wilder seems like he's not been the most active, and he seems like he's on a decline, and Dillian hasn't been active. So that's a perfect matchup. You know that they're going to meet in the middle, and someone's going to get knocked out.
Absolutely, and just touching on some of the undercard on Sunday night, and I spoke to Dillian there, and he spoke about sort of, wanting sort of having to bleed so everyone can sort of eat in a way, and it's very much the case of him. He's provided great opportunities for guys like Thomas Carty on the undercard. Obviously, Wardley's provided, Babbage and many others. So I guess from yourself on a promotional aspect, I guess how much of an inspiration can Dillian be, because he's provided opportunities for a lot of good fighters who may not have got that before?
Yeah, and that's when you look at platform sport, that's what it is. We're trying to provide a platform for those that don't have a loud enough voice. And if you look at the undercard, it's all guys that are hungry, not desperate, but they're hungry. They're hungry for success, and they want to fight. Thomas Carty, he wants to be on those big stages. He wants to follow, I say his stablemate under the same management company. He wants to follow Fabio Wardley. He wants to be involved in those, those massive fights out in Saudi. So, he's hungry and he wants to be active. So, Thomas Carty, I'm sure, is going to put on a great performance. He's got a tough opponent. He's only been stopped. So he's been stopped twice, but really only been stopped by Hellenius. So he's a tough man. Mike Perez, as he would say, daddy's back. The amount of pullouts you've had from Mike Perez is unbelievable. So again, we want to use this as a platform for him to go on to bigger and better things. There's Chris Billum-Smith, that we would love Mike Perez to fight afterwards, or Bridgeweight. Let him go for a world title at Bridgeweight. So all we're doing is we're just trying to create a platform that guys can jump on and go on to bigger and better things and help reach their own personal goals.
Another guy I did want to talk about the undercard, Derek Chisora's nephew. Obviously, it's a great story there. Obviously, Dillian, Jermaine Dhliwayo's on the card. Good to get him on there as well.
Yeah, that's nephew, man. Yeah. Listen, I've seen him train. I've been down in the gym with him. He's excited and he wants to create a legacy for himself. He wants to not just be known as Derek Chisora's nephew. He wants to be known as his own fighter. So I said to him, you want to be active? Do you want to jump on? And he's like, yeah, he's excited. And listen, that kid is going to be something special. And I'm just happy to be a small part of the journey. He's going to be something special. And he's a hard worker, and he's a well-mannered young man. He's nothing like his uncle, do you know what I mean? But his style is like his uncle in terms of when he's in there, he's serious, he means business, and he's full of heart. So I can't wait to see him box from a fan's perspective, but also know from a promoter. It's great to have young, hungry talent.
Definitely, and I guess sort of touching on yourself, and in this promotional game now, you've worked in boxing for many years, and you put your all into it. Do you know what I mean? You've a very hands-on approach. People can see you in the corners doing the cuts and this and that. I guess sort of having that experience and being around boxing for so long. I guess how are you enjoying this aspect now in a promotional point of view?
I think. I was actually speaking to somebody and we were talking about the 3 S's. So it's almost like sacrifice that I'm going through now. And it's a lot of sacrifice and suffering that I'm going through now in order to get these shows out, in order to get the opportunities, in order to break down certain barriers that are in place to stop fresh, new, young promoters coming through. And I just hope that, like everything else that I put my mind to, it'll then turn into success. I was an amateur boxer myself. I'm not coming from, Daddy hasn't given me millions to set this up. This is, I've come from being an amateur boxer in hooks with just a dream of wanting to stay within boxing. I knew I wasn't going to make it as a professional, and I didn't really have the time, the know-how, or the contacts to go to that next stage. There wasn't no, okay, if you do this, then you get to here. If you get to there, it was it's like a no man's land. So for me, it's always just been pushing. You know, I've known what I've wanted to do in the back of my mind, but I've wanted to learn and grow within the sport, and I think this is just my natural next step of elevation. I'll still be in the corners. I'm an osteopath. I still work with fighters and help them with rehabilitation. I still offer instructions in terms of performance for all of the guys, but in terms of where we want to take fighters long term, this is the natural step.
And I guess for yourself there, how much of a benefit do you think that has? Where you've been in the gyms, you know, you've seen everyone sort of come through and grow up. Like, how much of a benefit do you think that has for your understanding of the game? Because I think it's a lot of people can say, especially in some promoters, you know, they're good businessmen, but they may have a bit of a lack of understanding. But that's something that you've definitely got in abundance. You know, the understanding of what it's like to be a fighter. So do you think that does provide like a bit of an edge or something different to you?
Yeah, because in terms of being able to speak the language, you know, you can ask any fighter that I've been in a camp with, when they run, I run. You know, when they do their strength sessions, I do the same strength sessions. I've gone in there and sparred. You can see me. I've warmed up fighters before. I'm heavily involved in training camps. When they're away from their families, you know, for 12 weeks, I'm away from my family for 12 weeks. Only difference is when they get paid the big money, I don't get the same check. But I understand my position, and I'm able to speak the same language of suffering and sacrifice that they speak. We come from the same place, you know. We know the same struggles. We know about robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know what I mean? I've been through those stages. When I was at amateur box, I was training 5 days a week. You know, cutting weight was easy for me because I didn't really have money to buy food anyway. So, like, I know about the suffering. I've to chase my own dreams. I know about my children not having the best of things because I'm trying to build something that's going to change their future. So, in terms of being relatable, like, I believe I'm as close as it gets. And like I said, I've come from humble beginnings. I'm just managing to be around the right team that all we need is a little crack in the door and we slide our way through, you know. When at the first time I mentioned wanting to get into boxing, I won't say who, but they laughed and said, oh, it's not possible to even get in the corner. So, you know, I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I've got a vision and a clear focus, and I'm not going to stop until I get there.
So that's sort of my next question. Like, for yourself, the promotional game as well. It's a very sort of dog eat dog business. It's very sort of saturated. But I guess for when you come into it, like, what is the vision? Like, what are the plans? It's a very open question, but just talking on the first thing that comes to your mind. Like, what really is it?
Yeah, I think it's the same. Look, when we started our management company, and I remember sitting down with Dill, we just wanted to help the guys that weren't getting any opportunities. You know, the guys like Dillian that weren't Olympians but have a fantastic story and are just as talented. So for me, when I think of where we're trying to go with platform sport, is find those diamonds, find those guys that have the story and that are hungry to improve. Not everybody's going to be a world champion. Not everybody's going to get to the pinnacle of the sport, but there are, I strongly believe, some of the best boxers we've had in this country we've never seen. And that's just because there's not always the opportunity for them to display their skills and for them to be able to train and get to that position. So I feel like my role is to go out there and find those rough diamonds and take them as far as I can. And then, you know, if we have to let them go to get to the next step, then that's what we do.
Absolutely, for sure. And another thing I did want to ask yourself, obviously, about Fabio Wardley, coming off the back of a really good win against Fraser Clark in Saudi Arabia. What is the latest, I guess, for Wardley now, sort of pushing on for world contention? And you say there about diamonds in the rough, like, he's not only in a disrespectful way, but he probably comes under that banner as well, that sort of come from that white collar background. So yeah, obviously pushing now towards the world level.
Yeah, and we saw David Adelaide on the weekend with, you know, a great knockout So I think that speaks volumes of how good Fabio Wardley is, and what he done to Fraser Clark as well. So I've got no doubt that next year we'll be pushing for world honours. We've got Uncle Frank in our corner that is experienced, somebody that I look up to as well. He's experienced, and he sees the vision that we have for Fabio, and wanting to be a part of it. So yeah, next year he should be in some really exciting fights, and hopefully towards the back end fight for a world title. That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a name I was going to mention to yourself for Fabio, and obviously we saw this weekend Kubrat Pulev claim the WBA regular, which obviously is up for a lot of question. But that is a potential avenue, do you think, to sort of looking at someone like Pulev, who's on that sort of that fringe world level in a sense, but obviously holds a real good a world title.
Yeah, we would love Pulev to be fed to Fabio. Fabio would dominate him and beat the life out of him. So it will be a good fight whilst it lasts. But I definitely think it would end in Fabio stopping him without a shadow of a doubt. But yeah, that's a fight that we would love. The heavyweight scene is exciting now, man. I'm just grateful to be able to witness it as a fan and just have a small little part of having fighters that are, directing themselves towards those world title winners. Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, I'll call it there. But Michael, a pleasure to speak to you, mate. We're always good to see you, mate. And yeah, always good to get an interview from you. So I appreciate taking time to speak to you. And yeah, all the best on Sunday, mate. Top man. Appreciate it. Thank you, mate. Cheers. Thanks.